Okay, I got that out of the way. I feel great. I don't feel good, but I'm feeling like we can do this.
Welcome back, listeners, or if you are new, welcome to the Digital Divide podcast. I am Justin Fry.
And I am Joshua Charletto.
There we go. And let's just cut to the chase and let's talk about our news stories that we picked. I think last time I told you to go for first, I think, correct?
Yes,
But
actually, the last two times.
okay, well,
Remember, you were all about putting me on the spot.
oh yeah, so I will go first this time. Just, just to balance the force here. Reference.
Ah, you're so gracious.
Oh, perfect. So, Josh, we live in a world full of subscriptions. And sometimes when life gives you lemons, why don't you just make a subscription service for pastrami? Have you ever wondered one day you're sitting at your desk and you're wondering, man, I could go for some great pastrami right now? No?
I don't think I've ever wondered that even when I'm not sitting at my desk.
Oh God. Sorry, this is one of my favorite things I've ever found, I think, in on the internet. But apparently there is a deli in, I believe, New York that is be- basically sticking with the modern times and has created a subscription service for their world famous, or I guess country famous maybe, pastrami. So um, just when you didn't think life would get any better, you can get your favorite pastrami sent to you, or you can pick it up in subscription boxes for, I think, what's the price they're saying? $1,500 for a full year, or for only 3 months, you will pay $450
$1,000 a year?
plus. Yes.
Wow, that's excessive.
Yeah, and it's feeding 4 to 6 people, so quite a lot of food, I'm sure. They have like packages that you can get, not just pastrami, but other things. I guess here they say like you can get like sauerkraut and mustards, some swag from this deli. So some interesting stuff. If I doubt anybody who listens is going to pick up this subscription, but I'm
Well,
curious to see
you
reviews.
don't make assumptions, Justin. Justin, don't make
Yes.
assumptions.
Okay. Well, I won't, but I just think that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And in a world full of subscriptions, that probably top 10 of the craziest subscription service I've ever seen.
Maybe this is just the pastrami news that our listeners were waiting for, Justin.
Yes. And I'm actually very hungry. Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, I just love that. So,
Yeah,
what
that's
about
pretty great.
what about
Thanks for
you?
that one.
Yeah.
I am going to report the semi sad news that Roseanne was canceled today.
God dang it. Uh, are you surprised though? Are you?
Uh, I don't know how to describe how I feel. It's a mixture of not caring and also not surprised. But I will say I should be surprised because the show apparently was a massive hit, like massive. So
Hmm.
it's interesting. So the show got canceled, I believe. I am just reading the article today because it just came out, I don't know, an hour or something ago.
Hmm.
Um, that she made some racial comments on Twitter because, nobody sees tweets.
Yes, exactly.
And therefore, I believe the result was that then ABC canceled the sitcom.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's the news. I don't know. There's nothing to say. It's canceled.
It's disappointing.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's disappointing. And I guess this kind of ruins my, not really, but that was part of my quote rant later on. But yeah, I just don't get it why. Like, it's social media. You're an actor, you're a public figure, you have that check mark next to your Twitter account. Um, People are going to see what you tweet, regardless if you delete it. I mean, someone's probably looking at your feed at the moment you're posting that. So I just don't. I don't know what people think when they say this is a great idea. I'm going to post it online to say this phrase, and I bet you nobody will care. It's probably the opposite. So I don't know. Just surprises me that there's people who just do it anyways.
That's true.
But that's besides the fact. Now that that's all depressed, we've got all depressed about our favorite show being canceled.
Our
Um,
favorite.
yes, our total favorite. I have a good topic, or we have a good topic. Sorry, God, I'm so self-centered. Um, that I've been wanting to talk to you about, which we've kind of already talked about in passing with each other, I think, and we've always touched on it, and we always go, man, we shouldn't get into it because for whatever reason, I'm sure it would become a large debate. So, uh, do you mind if I start off the topic?
Oh no, please. By all
God,
means.
we need to stop being so polite. I think you should just say no or like tell me don't do something because I think we're too polite sometimes.
Well, it seems that way until you realize that I'm every time being sarcastic.
Yes, of course, I know. It's your generation.
Oh boy. Here
Uh,
we go.
again, but the idea of we'll call it multitasking slash yeah, I'm going to call it multitasking because I disagree with you about the intention part of this. So, in our world right now, I think, and I know, and I see on a day-to-day basis the idea of multitasking being a large part of our lives, particularly in the IT world. I'm sure you would not agree or disagree because in an area where you'll have multiple projects, you might be working on a single project that you need multiple screens, and being able to shift between possibly, we'll say, different connections to computers, servers, or several documents or a script you might have up. And being able to bounce between those three items at the same time while doing something else is seen as, in our world, I think, a positive thing. Um, it's encouraged. We want you to. So I guess I don't know where to start the debate on this.
Okay. Is there a debate on this?
I
Isn't that the first question?
Yes, I think there is because my opinion is that multitasking is a thing.
Oh, there is a debate. Excellent.
Yes.
That's the best.
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So,
you're okay to go.
yeah, okay. So, okay. Then I'm going to say it's not a thing.
Okay.
Okay, good debate.
Great. Okay, no, but let me the reason why this is hard to attack because there's multiple parts to this. Um let's go with the first thing. Is it a real thing? You say no, I say yes.
Yes, I do agree that I say no.
So
So,
now you're trying to find a way to agree. I see how it
well,
is.
so the thing is, I really don't think that there is multitasking, and I believe that there are studies, though I do not have any of them. I swear to God, we prepare for this show. And the reason I say that is because I believe what is thought of multitasking is actually a very fancy way of saying that you are switching between tasks quickly,
Okay.
which is not the same thing as what multitasking means. And I don't want to make this a debate about definitions, really. I'm not trying to say that you're defining it wrong. I'm trying to say that it's not possible for humans to multitask.
Okay. I agree on the fact that it's not physically possible.
Okay,
But the
case
thing,
closed. We can end the podcast.
if only life was that easy. Because to me, the biggest thing is, and I hear it a lot, and I think from our colleagues and from other people, one of the biggest things that we touch on is it feels like it's my particular generation, my age group, and the preceding groups will are focused on constantly doing something or constantly uh, creating some sort of output, and the only way we can achieve that is to attempt quote multitasking. It's to do multiple things at the same time so that we're quote more efficient. And I think honestly, I see that more in the people I work with that are around my age group because we come out of college, or we come out of graduate school, and we're even out of high school, and we come up into a super saturated world, whether it's in the tech industry or even in um, various industries, engineering, anything like that. And we are forced to compete against hundreds and hundreds of people who are just like ourselves. And I think the only way we can see us getting on the upper hand is to do multiple things and accomplish more than the other person. And by doing that, we're attempting to multitask. We're attempting to be over efficient, if that's possible. Does that make any sense?
It does. You're trying to provide, or rather prove your value to potential employers
Mm-hmm.
through a high level of output, whether that be quantity or quality. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
That makes sense. I will actually nitpick something you said in the middle there somewhere.
okay.
That it is your generation. I don't think it's a generational thing. In insofar as I don't think it's specifically your generation or my generation, if that even exists. I believe that this idea of multitasking actually came up historically much earlier than both of us,
Mm-hmm.
sometime when people were working in the 70s and 80s. I think it was a big thing. I don't have any basis for any of the things that I say. You'll notice that that's a theme in the show, that I just kind of make stuff up.
We'll just shove it in the show notes.
Yeah, that's fine. So the point is that I believe that that's when corporate America really became like modern corporate America. I see again, I'm using words that I don't even know. And that's when I believe that the idea of people working on multiple things at the same time and then eventually becoming multitasking became a thing. It's just that I think that those people then who move forward in their careers and become successful realize that over time it's more productive and it's more productive to focus on one thing at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and they gained that wisdom, and then the next younger generation or the next group of youngsters, I'm going to use that word, which is terrible,
Ooh.
from college slash high school, as you put it, think that they can conquer the world and say that they can multitask, unlike the olds, and they go ahead and do their best. And then they probably come to the same realization about the same time as the olds did, where they're older now and they're wiser and they realize, well, if I focus all my energy on one thing at a time while keeping everything else in a list so that I know that I can come back to it, I get better stuff done faster.
Ooh.
So, um, that's what I would like to say is probably what's happening.
Hmm. Well, yes, but the problem is with trying to focus on one thing, and I'm not trying to not go off topic, but you talked about the quantity over quality, and that for me is the biggest kicker uh, for, or not kicker, but at least looking at the way we're trying to produce, and I keep saying we, but uh, individuals are being pushed in a direction where their manager, their boss, somebody's expecting results, and to them, if you say, "Well, I spent 2 days working on this particular project and I didn't get to X, Y, Z," they're going to say, "Well, couldn't you have quote managed your time better to
I
work
love
on
that phrase.
several projects at once?" And so we hear that phrase, and then we go, "Well, okay, I focused a lot of my time on a singular object, and I provided that the results to my superiors, and they claimed that they would like more results, but on multiple projects at the same time rather than just one." So that is something that I'm seeing and I feel every day. And I even during school, that was something that was embedded or like embedded into my brain that where we're always focusing on quality, um, our industries are leaning more towards the ability to, and this is probably incorrect, so please don't kill me, but the a larger output or more frequent outputs, and so that's where we're put in a pickle and trying to produce more results to our superiors, or more results in general to prove our worth. It just that's a huge pressure on us, and that makes it me feel like there's got to be a quote multitasking way to multitask. I just don't know, and I haven't seen anyone possibly effectively actually do it. Um,
Well, so there's a couple things there. Firstly, the multitasking myth,
mm,
I'm going to say, because I'm going to stick to my stance,
yep.
is further exaggerated by the fact that we have companies in corporate America and really in America,
Mm,
everywhere really, where you are now expected to wear 6 different hats for the same job. And you actually are doing what used to be 2, 3, 4 people's jobs in one job. So the and this is letting I think this is letting up a bit now that the market has turned around a little bit, if
mm,
that's even a real thing again, and where we can start hiring more people into some more positions, and actually jobs are coming back. When there was the big tight squeeze on jobs, you were doing five, six, 5, 6 people's jobs, for one job.
mm,
So then with that, you're trying to figure out how to do this one thing over here and this second thing and that third thing, and they're all full projects, and you're trying to manage your tasks for each and also manage the projects, and by the way, coordinate with this person. And oh, did I mention the director needs some kind of meeting in the next 48 hours? So you have all these things piling up together, and of course, if you miss a beat, it only adds to the pile. Then you have to try and keep up with it and try to work back towards it, and there's just no amount of multitasking, even if it were real, would allow for you to accomplish the job of 6 people.
mm,
And yet, companies ask that of us more and more and more. So I think that just further adds to the problem of pretending like we can multitask, of pretending like we can tackle more than one thing at a time. Because it's not only the pressure of trying to produce output to prove your worth, but you're also under the pressure of the number of things that you're expected to produce and when. And there's all kinds of factors around how that could be handled, which we could touch on, I guess, if we get to that point. But
yeah.
then moving on to your second point, and that is that you don't know if there is a possibility or how it could be achieved. And
Right.
the answer to your question, I think, is that you remove the humans from the equation.
Whoa. Hold
The
on.
way to multitask is to have you doing something and, say, a piece of automation doing something. That's how you
Okay.
multitask.
I got a little worried where you're going with this.
I'm not going to go to AI just yet. That'll be
Or
10 podcasts
robots.
down the road.
Seriously, that got a little weird because that was something I wanted to touch base on later. But you hit it where I was going to go because I love the word automation, but then the fear that we all get as someone starts bringing up, well, we can just replace ourselves with machines because they will do a better job of multitasking. And no, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, we don't know that yet. And who knows where the machines will come from. Besides, we'll all probably be dead by that point anyway, if pop culture is to be believed, so it won't matter.
So, I okay. So let's talk about it this way. Great. You've basically just said we're essentially having information overload, and we have to somehow adjust to that. Or how do you adjust to having all that information? What can we do really to modify what's coming through the pipeline so that we can uh, organize our efforts, I guess, so that we're not necessarily multitasking, but we're staying on beat with what we are supposed to do. And I think that's where one of my areas right now that I'm trying to tackle because, as we've been already talking about, we're feeling it in our positions, but also I'm sure everybody at one point and is currently facing it everywhere else, needs to find a way of essentially organizing their brain, organizing what's coming through. And what's nice is I think there's a good reason why we're seeing the increase in like get tasks
Getting things done.
done applications, man. And that's great because heck, I love those things. And as I already said last episode, Notion's fantastic. And the problem is finding the one that you like. But can that really even help you? Can we supplement the ability to quote multitask simply just by task management?
No. No, you
No.
can't. I think that that is simply a tool and not going to fix the problem.
Okay.
That is a tool that you can use to get a handle on something or your tasks, I should say, if you already have a system of thinking in place and a model, I think. I think it requires the use of concrete models and systems in order to even approach the problem, and then you can grab the tools that work for you and start working away with them. And I say that because, well, I say that based off the example of, have you ever heard of Getting Things Done, Justin?
Yes? Question mark?
Yes, it was a book written by David Allen, which I'm sure everybody has heard of.
Nice pull.
And it has been lauded as the one way, if you will, I'm going to put that in quotes, to get things done. And I'm not knocking it or saying it's bad, or it's probably the best I've ever seen in terms of giving a concrete system. But so many people are into it and tout its ability to help you. And I truly think that it does help a lot of people and can get you really started. But the truth of the matter is that everybody's different and things work differently for different people. And I think I've tried to use GTD or getting things done, which is, the short way to say it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me, but that's not to say it's not great and it won't work for anybody else. Because it gives you that model, that system that if you stick to, you will succeed in what you're trying to do because you will be able to separate what needs to be done from what doesn't need to be done, which I think actually highlights and underlines the real crux of the issue. And you brought it up earlier. We've got so many things grabbing for our attention every day, not just our jobs. We've got social media coming out of our ears, all of which have notifications on your phone that if you don't manage or, you know, take an interest in managing, you will be steeped in notifications that once you get notifications of that caliber or of that magnitude, none of them matter to you because none of them are important or special. And on top of that, you also have to work with people on a daily basis and have input from them. You've got input from your boss. You've got input from email. Oh my gosh, the email never stops. It's always going to keep coming. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed very easily for good reason. Um, and then we've got things like ADD and all that kind of stuff coming in because people don't know how to handle it, or certain personalities or brain types latch onto that and then have problems with it. I mean, it's just overwhelming, the things that are coming out of modern society. So I have some suggestions, but I wanted to hear what you would suggest, Justin.
Well, that was perfectly where I wanted to go. I want to make sure that we don't skip the attention deficit because that's a huge thing I want to focus on as well.
Sure.
That's like a second
Yeah.
part of this, but really, unfortunately, we're not experts. Josh, you and I are not no experts in multitasking and how to actually.
Now,
Uh,
wait a minute. I'm an expert in not being an expert.
okay, well, we can agree to disagree, but I want to say that there's other you don't have to use another application to solve your problem. In this particular case, you don't need to use a get things done application to manage your time. If that's where we're going at, something that I think can help others is and maybe it's more of a communication thing, is really addressing. And I hate to get this is gonna get really weird now.
Well, you can get really in the weeds with this stuff, and
Uh,
that's why we've always kind of shied away from approaching it because you can get you can get philosophical, you can get religious, you can get
I'm not about to
you,
get religious because those are like there are a few things where I will not talk about because I'm sensitive. Bleh, I cannot talk to those things. So let's just dive into it because we might as well go all the way.
Sure, go ahead.
So for me, I think the biggest thing is making sure you're communicating to your boss, your supervisor, about the particular items that they're asking you to do, but not only them, your supervisor slash boss, but also your other colleagues, because communicating to them and setting those expectation and realistic expectations of what you know you can meet, and also expect them to stand up for you in times of mass what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, over overwhelming tasks, amount of tasks coming through really is
Like,
key.
yeah,
Just because explaining to them your current struggles or explaining to them what you're looking at on your day-to-day schedule, they might not actually see what you're facing, what you're accomplishing, because they've got six other people to go look at. I mean, they're personnel leaders, or we hope they're personnel leaders. But you want to make sure that you're making this apparent to them, because otherwise they're just going to assume everything's fine and they can just keep piling it onto you. Because as a person who is a yes man, and I'm sorry, but that's just something that I was taught to be. I have a tendency to just say, yeah, sure, I'll get it done, or I'll take this on, when I don't think of, okay, I have this project that needs to get done. Now I've just said I'll do this, and now I have to figure out where the heck I'm going to plop it in and how I'm going to spend my time. Make sure that I'm not holding the team down, but also creating quality work for them, so that the when we go back and revisit, hey, did you do this? I'm not providing them with, say, a document or some code or something that's not well written because I was too busy writing something for this project and thinking about another project. Lo and behold, I have typos that aren't even relevant to the project I'm working on.
I would like to highlight these two. Actually, these are really, really important. I think that first piece, communication and talking to your direct leader, your boss, about what his or her expectations are, what they foresee the actual outcome and successful outcome to be, what kind of timeline they think should. It's really, even if you're not the project manager, managing your own self as a project is really, really important because then you're setting expectations with your boss and with yourself about how it should go. And I agree, that's super, super important, especially since, as you pointed out, the colleagues aspect,
Mm,
you're not the only one working on it, most likely.
yeah.
And they need to be brought in and information shared, and they will have their own set of expectations on what they should and shouldn't be doing. So that communication is key. As always, communication is where it starts and ends. And without good communication, you're not going to do so well. Assuming that this is that type of work, whatever that type is,
Mm,
it's really important. Well, actually, all types of work really require very good communication, especially with your superiors. So if you're aligned with your superior on what you're working on and what they want from it and where you're focusing that attention, you are in a good you're on a good path basically.
yeah, I would agree, and I mean that's just one thing that you can. Communication, I think, is just something that whether or not you're, like you said, you're in a specific field or not. Um, I wouldn't want to be on a rocket ship on my way to a mission to Mars to only find out that the one of the rocket scientists who were working on the one of my life support systems slept in or over didn't sleep at all and was working on some configuration and accidentally typed in the wrong configuration, and lo and behold, I'm in space and now my system doesn't work. So I'd
I would
really,
also like to hope that it's not one guy writing the configuration for the rocket that is the space uh, mission to Mars, but cool.
yeah, I would hope so too, but we all know that can definitely not be the case.
Your other point, though, is really important too, and that is that the d- being a yes man is super dangerous. As a professional yes man myself,
Hmm.
it's as you start gaining more and more projects and work to do, having that communication with your superior and the people asking you to do things is really important about I have X, Y, and Z to work on. Do you really want me to work on A, B, and C instead?
Yeah,
Or which should be the priority? Or do you want me to defer this? Do you want me to delegate it to somebody else? Do you want me to go back to the team that assigned it to me or gave it to me and say, this isn't going to happen in a reasonable amount of time? Is there somebody else that can work on it? Or those kind of communications, just to highlight what you were saying about always saying yes to everything.
right.
And I'm just learning myself how to say no to a lot of things. Not a lot of things, but if I am if I am overbooked, it's important to know that and look at things and say, okay, well, what is actually the priority here, and what can I actually delegate or defer, or come back to them and say, can we come back to this at another time, or actually just say, no, I can't do that right now, which is really hard. That is
Yeah,
a really, really, really hard skill to learn.
it's knowing your limits essentially. Um,
Yeah.
you don't want to go on assuming that everybody knows your breaking point because they don't, and they're probably going to keep pushing not to break you, but until you push back. So if you continue to say yes, and to clarify, yes, man or woman, for those out there uh, that want to be PC, you want to make sure that you're apparent and clear when making those expectations too. So
I
uh,
don't know how they would know your breaking point when you don't even know it. I know I don't know mine
right,
100% unless I really start managing all of my time, which is usually what ends up happening. So,
yeah, and it's unfortunate, and whether or not that's going to really defeat the problem of trying to multitask or at least trying to get to that point of being efficient enough to handle multiple projects, not at once, but within a smaller given time. Um, it may help. We're just trying to, I guess, give you some examples, but it's hard. Uh, there's so many things that I can think of that people use. People have told me, uh, this. I don't want this to sound silly because it's not. It's a legitimate thing, like meditating. One thing that helps, I know people that are close to me that they'll meditate like every 5 minutes, twice or three times a day, to help them like align themselves on what they need to get done, or just at least come to some sort of relaxation or Zen moment so that they can focus uh, on a particular object or a particular project. So I think that helps some people. I have tried it. It doesn't work for me. I think this gets to the point where I am easily distracted after years and years and years of being engrossed into social media technology, where I'm constantly trying to be entertained or busy. So it's hard for me to like sit down and just go into that Zen moment and not think about what I need to do next. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I have not actually meditated for real, although I'm super interested in it, and uh, it's it's an interesting thing, and I think it probably has some kind of merit, whether
Okay.
that be spiritual or not.
Yeah.
I think that there's something to be said about clearing your mind of everything that is weighing you down and actually separating yourself from it a little bit. I don't think that there's any one. No, I should back up a step. I think that there are more ways than what typically is called meditation
Hmm.
to do that. But if you're after a certain type of meditation, or looking to if you're looking to really master meditating, I think that there's probably one really one or a couple actual ways to meditate. But being able to clear your mind and step away from it and separate yourself,
Mm.
that's a really important skill. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't give enough attention to. And we all do it at some point or another. It's just when you're mindful of it and you actually take the time to separate a little bit, or even, like you said, take that 5 minutes and just take a couple breaths, clear your mind, just take your mind away from it for a moment.
Yeah.
Whether or not, I mean, for some people it's going to be easier than others.
Oh
And
yeah.
some people really, really, like myself, sometimes have to really work at it. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. This there's a recommendation I'd like to make, but it goes more or less with the attention deficit I want to talk about. So I don't want to jump into the next part of this, but um, as far as examples goes, do you have any that particularly work best for you? I mean, you said you haven't tried meditation. Communication, we kind of already agreed on, but is there something in particular that you use to manage or kind of alleviate the issue?
I think that part of it is knowing your limits, like we said before, but also understanding that really you are working with limited resources, and that those resources are your attention and your time.
Hmm.
So if you think about them as actual resources that you have to spend, and you want to spend them on the things that you are working on, it sometimes helps. I can't say that it's always going to. Again, everybody's different. Everybody thinks differently. Everybody approaches problems differently, but for me, it's really important to know that my time and attention are valuable and that I need to be very mindful of where I'm spending that time and attention on the things that I'm working on. Because while I do like to move quickly and quickly produce results for the projects that I work on, I also don't want them to be incorrect. Now, I work in the networking field, so having to go back and redo configurations or scripts or even cost benefit analyses, um, having to go back and redo those, that then becomes wasted time. So I'm kind of the measure twice, cut once guy in most of those scenarios. With that said, I think knowing those resources are limited, finite, and you only have 8 hours a day, or X number of hours that you work a day. Maybe it's 12. Maybe you work 80 hours a week. Who knows? But you can't work every single minute of every single day. You will literally pass out physically. So there is some kind of limit, and you need to understand that there's only so many blocks that can fit into that day of those times and that attention. Attention is often overlooked in my opinion because it's something that is is thrown around and grabbed for by everything around you all the time. And our phones are really bad about this. And this is speaking to your attention deficit, which will be a good segue into what you're saying next, I'm assuming.
Yes.
But we have all these notifications and our phones, and sometimes it's not even about the notifications. Sometimes it's just about having the device with you and knowing it's there, and then it becomes this habit of pulling it out of your pocket and looking at it, or pulling it out of your purse and looking at it, and constantly just thinking about it. And that's where it gets dangerous. And I don't mean like you're going to get hit by a car dangerous, although that could be something, but also I mean, or rather I mean, that it is something that you're not thinking about, something that is now affecting your life in ways that you're not aware of because you just do it without thinking about it. And that's not to say that you did something wrong, but this is how this goes with these devices, it seems, these days. So, attention is a resource, and the more mindful you are of that resource and where it's going, I think the better off you will because you're actually thinking about it then,
Hmm.
which is, I would say, important. And then the last thing I want to touch on or say before you get to the attention deficit part of it, and I don't know, maybe you'll have something to say about this before that too, and that is that I don't think we can trust ourselves as much as people think that they can, or at least in my experience, I can't trust myself as much as I would like to hope or think that I can. So I treat myself as an idiot.
Oh,
And I put everything I think about or want to think about, I put everything I want to think about outside of my brain. And that is to say that I need something else besides my brain to remember things for me. And if it's something in the next 5 minutes, or it's something simple, I'm not talking about go get water, go to the bathroom, you know. I'm talking about, oh, I need to pick this up on the way home. There's no way I can rely on myself to remember that. And maybe I would if I did rely on myself to remember that. But I also know that there are times that I will forget. And so the more stuff you can pull away from yourself and your attention and put somewhere else to remember for you, or put somewhere else that is trusted and not your brain, I think the better off you are, because that is like this really long term way of clearing your brain, really long term way of keeping as much garbage out of your brain or input out of your brain and keeping it somewhere else that you can rely on so that you can have that peace of mind and focus all of your attention onto what you're actually trying to do at the moment. So, yeah.
I mean that could come through physically just writing something down, whether it's post-it note and just plopping it off to the side if somebody's talking to you. Um, it can be setting reminders on your phone because you're talking to an individual and you're saying, "Man, I'm probably going to forget this later as I'm on my way home. I need to pick up milk, or I have to remember to turn the water on, the sprinkler on when I get home." And we get so distracted with everything that's going on with our lives. Sometimes we kind of forget those little things, and sometimes they can be big things. So, no, I agree with you
Yeah.
on that, and definitely separating it yourself from the conversation you're having at the time and making that reminder can also be a negative thing because then you stop listening. Your attention then becomes uh, positioned elsewhere, and I think that's where it gets a little more difficult. But that's a different topic, I guess. But no. So, segueing into attention deficit, something that I don't know if it's necessarily a cause and cause and effect here, but uh, I feel that, and in my personally myself, that as I've gotten older, I've lost attention, the ability to keep my attention on one given object or one given thing, and that might be because I'm constantly trying to focus on the umpteenth project that I have to work on, or the thing I need to get done when I get home. I think what's coming out of that, and this is where I'm going to kind of tie in the technology world into this, but also expectations. The amount of information that's coming through to me, whether it's from my phone via you touched on the whole email thing. That's ridiculous getting all the emails, but the notifications on our phone, the messages that we have, like instant messaging, whether that's social or personal instant messaging or even instant messaging at work, like Slack, um, what else? Skype for Business, you name it. I think what Cisco Jabber is that what it is nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think
But
it's still called that.
we're creating these objects to basically keep us informed and keep us in quote communication at all times, which is something we just talked about, Josh. We just literally said, hey, we need to keep the open line of communication and make that apparent because that's going to help us set some expectations. But it also essentially creates this point where we're constantly uh, changing our attention and we're getting new information from other sources, and I start to feel like I lose control on what's going on because I have so much. It's like sensory overload. I'm getting so much to me, and then there are people out there that are more sensitive to this, or I'd like to think they are, and it's not their fault. It's due to a chemical imbalance, and something that they have to use medication for. But um, there's a whole other topic about that. I don't want to get into because
Yeah.
the people that claim they have it and people that don't. But I mean, I feel like I can't concentrate on anything because of what's hitting me, and it hits work all the time, and it also hits my personal life. And I can't say that that's a generational thing because I'm sure there were at one point this is happening in different phases or a different. It comes in different shapes and sizes from in the past when if this ever happened. I just feel like it seems to be pretty prevalent right now um, because the same aspects that we're getting our information from are exposing the fact that we're having attention deficit. So, well, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first, I'd like to say that when we talk about having that communication with your boss, I don't mean tweet with him about what his expectations are.
No,
So definitely go talk to him or her face to face. That would be great. Or at least have a phone conversation.
I mean at least direct message. Come on.
Yeah. And then I think you touch on some really important stuff that we don't really know yet what it is going to do to us, or if it's going to cause problems, or if it's the cause of the problems, or I mean, I could keep going. But the point is that we don't really know a lot of it behind it. What we do know is that a lot of people, I believe, are finding that they're in the same boat. They are having a hard time focusing or thinking that they need to be focusing on more than one thing at a time and trying to split their attention or trying to work hard to keep up with everything that's coming at them, the fire hose of information, as they call it. And this happens at work, this happens in your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that it's just everywhere and it's all coming at you and it's overwhelming. And I think also, just to tie in our last episode,
Nice.
you're talking about your generation growing up with it and trying to keep up with it. Imagine somebody who is a technophobic, who is trying to have all this garbage come at them, or doesn't want all this garbage to come at them, but
Right.
can't keep up with it. I mean, that's even a whole other problem. I don't even want to. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, I think that the answer, the initial answer, no, I don't know if it's an answer. The initial thing that you can try is to reduce, at least for me, reduce the inputs has been a huge help. Reducing the amount of stuff coming at you, which sounds simple and also probably made some people scream as they listen to it because
Mm-hmm.
it's not that simple, but it also is that simple. And notice I'm using the word simple, not easy.
Mm.
It's probably not going to be easy at
Oh
all. It's
heck no.
probably going to be really, really hard. But that's like removing yourself from Facebook always grabbing your attention, or if you are looking at Facebook that often, removing Facebook from your phone. I mean, those are the types of really difficult steps you need to do in order to reduce the input. And reducing the input can also give you your attention back. So if you're not, and it's going to be a long process, I would say. It's going to be at least a few weeks probably to get used to it. Because if you start doing that, you're going to start seeing yourself not thinking about getting on there and seeing what's happening or not worrying about what you're missing. Because for me, that was a huge thing. I don't know if you feel this way, but if I went through a whole series of reducing inputs, and so far that has been the biggest help for me. But what took me the longest to do it, or why it was so difficult for me, was I have this fear of missing out, which is actually a thing I think on the internet or whatever. Um, but I worry about what I'm missing out on, and it's something that is out there for sure, and is a problem I think for people, and it becomes this thing that keeps you thinking about the things that you want to go look at, like Twitter or Facebook. So that stuff keeps your attention.
Wasn't that fear of missing out? Wasn't that on a commercial for some sort of product or a service? A FOMO. I could have. I can't think of the commercial,
It's
unfortunately.
in more than that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's in a
But
commercial
somebody,
somewhere.
I just remember somebody pointing it out, or the fear of missing out, and I think it actually was a phone commercial, or at least a provider. So, unfortunately, we don't have live listening, so we can't have real time follow up. But I'll have to look for that later, and I'll add it in the show notes. But yeah, funny to say that I don't have that. I really don't care and this is my way of combating having all this information hit me, is that I've removed notifications indefinitely on my phone except for I think a few apps. One being my phone, the messages coming through, and debatable if I should block certain individuals and groups because of the amount that comes through. But
Not debatable. Absolutely do it.
because that gets a little ridiculous too. But basically, removing those notifications has been like life changing because I don't get my phone doesn't vibrate, and that's another thing. I should probably take it off vibrate and just make it completely silent, or at least do not disturb. But and not having that has been a way for me to not focus on, hey, my phone just vibrated and I'm working on my something at work, or hey, my phone just vibrated and I'm currently cutting a piece of wood. I don't want to cut my hand off. Uh, it's been really nice to have that change, but some people, unfortunately, it's harder for them to do that because they want to be informed. They want Twitter to let them know when their some of their following sent a tweet about the next show they're about to go to or something like that. So um, I guess it depends on the person.
Yeah, I used to be one of those people. When I first got my iPhone, I used to argue that I wanted my phone to tell me about things that were going on. Right? It was like the lazy man's robot
You
in his
you were
pocket.
the guy that had like 7,000 notifications
I
for
turned them
your.
all on,
Oh
and I
God.
wanted it to tell me every time I got an email, every time I got a notification for any social media, because I had that fear of missing out, which sounds really dumb. But
FOMO.
also, I worked in a technology company, and I was a bench tech at the time, and it was almost a competition to see who knew what when,
Oh my
right?
God.
So like, what piece of technology news coming through, who said it first, or who was like, "Oh, did you guys see this? Look at this. This just happened." And it really became this constant competition, which was really dumb and not useful
No,
because everybody else is going to see it.
you're not. You're.
And also, by the way, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be there when you get off of work as well.
Oh,
So it's that's a really difficult thing to get around, I would say, and through. And when you start turning off notifications, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like,
thank
I
God.
have my life back. And that I did that a long time ago, but I think the only thing I have on are messages like like text messages,
Mhm.
because important things come through there.
Most of the time.
And then if non-important things come through there, I also mute the people that are not important.
Mhm.
And then I have, I can't think of anything else. I have messages, and I think there's one game that I have on that takes 5 seconds to look at.
Nice.
And then the reminders,
Oh
those
yes,
come up,
that
and calendar events.
that would be helpful to keep your
Yeah.
tasks in line, wouldn't it be?
But that's it. That's all of them.
Yeah, and it just you made me laugh saying that you were that guy back in the day having the hundreds and hundreds of notifications. I just can't imagine what somebody's life would be like if they just had hit OK to allow notifications on their phones and just download several. We're talking hundreds of applications that just push notifications. I just couldn't imagine what that would look like. So,
Yeah, it was bad. It is really
and
bad. Don't do that.
maybe we'll
Don't
see
do
a
it.
shift in notifications in development. Maybe as people start to realize that maybe it's not the best thing to know constantly what's going on, or I mean, I'm not a news reporter, so my job isn't to constantly know when what's going on, or I'm not a developer, or I'm not somebody who constantly needs to know um, the hottest news or hottest trends on what I'm doing, because most of the time, if something hot new comes out, it's probably going to take 2 years to take effect, or it will be either rejected by the community or be a slow adopting process. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I had that stuff on all the time, it also was a way to justify the device I had. So I was so new to having an iPhone
Mm,
and that was the 3G. It was my first iPhone,
same.
and I had spent a chunk of change on it, and I really wanted it to be great, which it already was, but of course, it was a way to justify the price tag for me. So, yeah, don't do that. It's bad.
So one way of adjusting, and besides just the notification thing, uh, something that helps me really for like essentially the attention deficit issue, and I hate to say issue because someone out there is going to say, oh well, it's not a problem, robble robble robble, and that's great. Uh, you must have a really nice controlled life because I haven't heard one person yet tell me that they're not uh, experiencing something similar, but I like to work permitting or location permitting. Listen to musical scores from uh, TV shows, movies.
I
Sometimes
don't think people need another reason to call us nerds, Justin, and
that's
that's what's going to happen here.
listen. I don't care. Um, I,
I do.
well, that's great.
I have too many reasons.
I just think it's easier for okay listening to music. We'll just be broad there. You can cut that other part out. That's okay. Well, I like to listen
Oh
to
no, now you're out there twisting in the wind. I also listen to musical scores. I love them.
I don't think I'm pretty sure I tell people that, so it's definitely a public knowledge. So
Oh well, I hide it for sure.
I
So
don't care, as in it doesn't affect me. Guess what, guys? I was a theater kid. Oh, anyways, um, I just think it helps me focus on what's going on. It because it's just essentially it's just it's instrumental music. It's not uh, someone singing or somebody talking. So it helps me focus on what I'm doing. It basically zones out or removes the other noises and other distractions that I have, and I get to focus on one particular thing. So that's just something I wanted to talk about because that's how I just started to notice that I was having this attention issue of focusing on one particular thing at once. And to do that and combat it was to use that music. One note I want to make that noise canceling stuff that corporate buildings use uh, does not work for me. It's more annoying, and I focus on the fact that I hear this loud rushing noise that's supposed to be a fan or sound like a fan, and to not make it seem so quiet. I would love if it was dead quiet in my office, to be quite honest with you.
well, just to be fair, because I can't stand that stuff either. However, if they turn it off, you'd be hearing crazy
Clickety
voices
clickety.
all the time,
Yeah.
bouncing all over the place. So,
Could we just tone it down a little bit, please? Just a little bit.
I don't like it either. In the same way that I need the lights to be bright and not dim.
Yes.
So,
As I'm saying this in a dark room with no lights except my laptop.
no, I agree with you. Uh, if there's singing and talking, it distracts me because the point of it is to be background noise to drown out the other background noise that is distracting. So,
Exactly.
using it as a tool to be just background is great for me and really allows me to. It's like you're audibly in a room by yourself then, which is great
Sensory.
because then you're just working by
It's
yourself.
like sensory deprivation.
Yes, except without
The tank.
the deprivation part.
Yeah. I would love to do one of those. Oh god, that'd be so cool. I think
I, I think you would think differently if you got into it.
I probably would now that you think about it because I feel claustrophobic pretty easily, or I feel like if I'm in a closed space, I'd probably freak
Yeah,
out.
you would flip out.
So I take the back. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Anyway, yeah.
I don't think we solved the world's dying question of how to combat multitasking or is it real, but I still think we touched on a lot of good points. Would
I
you?
would like to add one more,
Sure, we can.
and I think you brought this up before
Mhm.
the show, and that is take a break. I mean, literally, put your phone down, get away from your computer. I don't mean take a walk. I mean like plan a vacation or do like a weekend thing, or even if it's just a few hours a night, like get away from your phone, step away,
Read a
just
book.
read a book, though, sometimes it's harder for people to get into that. If you want to watch a TV show, I guess, but just get away from all the input and just breathe and choose what you're going to do without everything else happening at the same time.
Go throw a baseball. Go fishing. Go ride a bike. I'm trying to think of. I mean, just
Ride
do
a bike,
something. I don't care what it is.
go
Don't
skateboarding.
go. Try something new. Try a cooking class.
Okay, let's not go overboard. Just take some time for yourself and treat yourself like you need to get away from it. And by the way, I used to be steeped in a lot of this stuff in terms of letting it steal my attention or everything happening where I needed to be involved or feeling like I was going to miss out. And during that time, I used to do things like watch TV and do something else and maybe a third thing.
oh
Like I'd
gosh.
watch TV and like browse the internet on my laptop, or I'd watch TV and that's not it sounds cool and it feels cool at the time maybe I guess, but it's also just just adding to the problem. So focus on one thing at a time. It will help you. You'll feel better about it and enjoy.
So, with that said, we can move on to my favorite part of the show, our lovely rant slash recommendation corner.
I love that it's rant slash recommendation.
Because I don't want it to be specifically ranting because I'm a solutions guy, and when I talk about a problem, I want to have a solution. Yeah, there's a buzzword right there. Reference if anybody noticed that. Thanks if you can. But do you have something in particular that you are super passionate about, or can I be super
Well,
polite and go before you?
there aren't many things that I'm super passionate about, but there are things that I'd like to rant or recommend about.
Okay,
That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to ever say that again.
rant or recommend. They go hand in hand.
So there's one thing I do want to rant, and that is when in the heck did we agree to having everything be a subscription? I get that it's making money. I'm all for the things that we like being supported by making money. That's important. But I also don't want everything that I pay for to be a subscription, thank you. And the fact that there are that many things in the world now that are turning to the subscription model is a little daunting. And if we could just roll that back, that would be great. So that's my rant. I need less subscriptions for the things that I love. So, all three of you listening, are we up to four this time?
Yeah, I think so.
All three or four of you listening, if you could go out there and make this happen so that there are less subscriptions and I can just pay outright in cash for the things that I like, that would be great.
Wow, that was nice.
Thanks. What about you, Justin? Do
I
you have anything to rant about or to recommend?
God, I would like to rant slash recommend because it's a great name. Uh,
It's not a great. Okay, go ahead.
to
Sorry.
no, you're fine. To something about what we kind of talked about earlier was Roseanne cancellation, but something that kind of stems off from that, and just from reading some tweets from people back and forth, musician to musician, uh, but also just through social media. Anyways, uh, think before you speak. The social media is not your friend, and what I mean by that is, uh, if you have a following, people are going to read your tweets. Like, there's a reason why you have 100K followers. It's not like they're gonna ignore the fact that you just tweeted, "Hey guys, look at this big doobie I just smoked," or "Hey guys." Oh, that was a reference that I don't know if that's gonna make it explicit or not. Would it do that?
No, keep
I hope
going.
not.
You're
Anyways, cut me
fine.
out. Um, or a reference to, I don't know, this cool thing I got, or hey guys, look, I just went to this store and I saw this person, and here's my rant on why blank can't do this. Like, someone's gonna see that, someone's gonna retweet it, and then all these other people are gonna see it on their feed and then retweet it, and then now you just have to spiral. But especially if you're somebody in TV, you're in politics, if someone tweets, or if you particularly tweet something that's pretty risque, sorry, they Captain Obvious, it's gonna blow up. There's no way of you getting around it. No PR genius is going to be able to work what you just said into a way that will get you out of the problem. You could throw money at those people and they still won't be able to, because you ultimately, in a matter of, what's Twitter up to, 250 characters? Is it more now?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And within 250 characters, you've just completely ruined your career or ruined somebody else's career. So just
Yeah, I
think
think.
before you
I
tweet.
mean, good rant, Justin. I think the Roseanne thing really highlights that. That was a very, very successful show if the numbers are correct,
Yeah.
and ABC just dropped it like a rock. So there is no, you are not bigger than them, and there is nobody that cares. They will just drop you. And yeah, social media, it's not that it's not your friend, it's just it's a business. And understand that your stuff isn't as private as you think it is. Always just really a good rule of thumb, just always act like it's public.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or
maybe you do things in public that aren't so great, and that's okay. That's your choice. Please, just as long as you're making the choice, that's all that I ask as your friend. Social media is not your friend. We're your friend. And we're telling you, just think. Think before you do it.
think before you tweet. There you go. Well,
All right.
that's good. Well, thanks everybody for listening to our fourth episode. Can't believe it's already at four already. We're a month into it. If you liked any of our episodes, or this is your first episode, please give us a review on iTunes, or I think wherever you can hear a podcast. There are several mediums, so please take a look, review, and we're more than happy to receive positive and negative feedback. It helps us uh, grow as a podcast, so please do that. Um, if you would like to, you can tweet at our Twitter account, at Digital Divide PC, or send us feedback to an email, askdigitaldivide@gmail.com. Most of this information is all on our website. That's www.digitaldividepodcast.com. All this information is usually or always put in our show notes, so it's just an easy access. But if you want to, and like us so much that you want to follow Josh and I, my Twitter account is at JustinFry121. Josh, how can people get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on Twitter. My Twitter account is at jcharletto. That's spelled Ciarletto. That was a piece of feedback I got back that no, I pronounce it Charletto, but there's no H. It's a CI.
No.
And you can also get a hold of me at josh@charletto.com. That's my email address. So feel free, please, and thank you.
Perfect. Well, until next time, everybody, take care.